Good morning, afternoon, evening, everybody. I'm Gunnar Eos, and welcome to another episode of the Logical Gamers podcast. I'm here today with a small but mighty crowd. I've got Mr. BlankaKong and Mr. Hotto Wolf. Fortunately, no Mr. Esoteric or Mrs. Zeta Kaiser for this one. They'll be back in the next one. So, this evening's topic is one I think everybody in this group can relate to. It's affected a lot of our favorite franchises and just I guess, our favorite hobby, how we all met each other, video games. And the topic is video game stagnation. Is creativity dead in the space? Uh, you know, are, are we done making memorable, groundbreaking games? Is everything a cookie cutter repeat? Or is there some hope? That's going to be the topic for this one. So, I'll start it off with thinking no. I'll say no, creativity isn't dead in the video game space, but it is dead in the AAA video game space. What I mean by the AAA, for those who don't know what that means, I'll explain it anyway. AAA means big publishers, your Square Enix, your Capcom, your Bethesdas, your Ubisofts, your Blizzards, the big guys, right? These are the guys that have been around for decades. They have long-standing franchises like Final Fantasy, Street Fighter, Mega Man, Monster Hunter, Resident Evil, World of Warcraft, Overwatch. The list goes on. Like franchises that you know that have a lot of money and a lot of development and manpower behind it. That's what I mean by AAA. I fully believe that there are far and few AAA games nowadays that are kind of worth a damn. Most of them are just generic, safe video games. They don't try anything new. They might add a new system here or there. They might update the graphics a little bit. But for the most part, it's the same game. I mean, Horizon Zero Dawn is a prime example of a safe AAA game. It takes what the first game did, adds some new bells and whistles to it, but they're not trying to set the world on fire. And you see that on a massive scale with AAA games. They're charging you 65, now 70 if you're next generation gamer to play these games that look, play and feel pretty much like the games you played 3 years ago. So that's what I mean by the AAA space pretty much being drained of creativity. You have a AAA game every now and then that might shake the apple cart, so to speak, but for the most part it's not there in the AAA space. But in the indie space, some independent game developers, yes, creativity is still there. There have been plenty of like memorable RPGs, platformers, roguelike games, strategy games, visual novel games that these small development teams, somebody like sometimes they're a handful of people, sometimes they're one guy, that they make these games that just like kind of give a breath of fresh air to the gaming industry in the sea of monotonous samey same games. So before I pass it off to my fellow panelists, I'm just going to end off with saying AAA gaming is pretty much dead. It's bloated. It's a bloated, rotten corpse that's due for a fall any minute now. But if you want to still find some creativity and some passion behind video games, I highly suggest you check out independent games and support them when you find one you like. So, that being said, I'll pass it off to my fellow panelists. What do you gentlemen think?
I'll let you go first, Wolf.
You could go.
Okay, sure. Give me a second. So I'm got work-related stuff coming in, so but all right, no problem. I answered. All right, so to answer the initial question, is game stagnation a thing? is creativity dead in the space? Yes and no. I'd have to agree with everything that Gunnar had mentioned prior. I won't repeat it, but I will add to it. So I think it's a combination of different things. I think it's a combination of laziness for sure from certain companies and certain development teams. I think it's also there are higher expectations for quality content. I think what would be considered quality content 20 years ago, or 30 years ago, or even 10 years ago, um, isn't the same as it is today, and that can mean different things. But I'll use some games as an example. So something like The Last of Us One when that first came out, or Uncharted when that first came out. Those were like considered genre defining AAA games, right? This is 2010, 2011. Um, and now that's kind of become the standard. We've seen that with God of War being rebuilt from the ground up, really as a game, as far as like how it plays and its presentation. You look at the God of War games from PSP and PS2 era, even PS3 era. There's a big jump in air quotes quality to the newer God of War games. God of War Ragnarok just came out, and it's getting tens across the board, and it's being praised as already game of the year. Even though I feel Elden Ring should be game of the year, but
Hey,
that'll be a different podcast conversation, and we'll see in December.
Look forward to Game of the Year episode.
Yeah. But anyway, so I think it's that, right? What's considered the standard has changed, that has gone up, and with that going up, the budget to make these games in order to hit that or even try to hit that has gone up. And so as a business, let's look at Ubisoft for a moment. In the Assassin's Creed games, when Assassin's Creed 2 came out, that was considered like the best Assassin's Creed game for a long time. I think the only other game that came out that could kind of dethrone 2 as the best one would be Black Flag Part 4, which I believe was 2013. But the Assassin's Creed games, generally speaking, have been pretty stagnant. They've been kind of samey for a long, long time. Even though Valhalla just came out 2 years ago, that one was praised as like, oh, yeah, this is a step in the right direction. But I look at that game and I go, well, what? How is this different from any other open world modern game like Horizon or whatever? It kind of occupies a very similar space. So in that respect, yeah, for sure, creativity is definitely, I wouldn't say dead, but comfortable. It's too comfortable. Um, so there's that. I will add, I did pull up some like stats, and I will say that like, and I should share this too with y'all, so y'all can see what I'm looking at. I decided to, where is it? Share screen. Go live. All right, so y'all should be able to see what I'm looking at. It's just my web browser. I have a few different tabs open, and I decided to look at games from every 10 years. So I said, let me go with 2001. That's when the PS2 came out. Let's take a look. And, this could be my nostalgia kicking in, right? I'll openly admit that it could be that. But there's a big gap in quality and quantity between the last like 20 years. I'm marking 2001, 2011, and 2021. So if we look at 2001, we got Grand Theft Auto 3, Metal Gear Solid 2, Max Payne, the first one, Halo, the first one, Super Smash Bros. Melee, which is still played today, Silent Hill 2, Ico. What else we got? Sonic Adventure 2, which is considered the best Sonic Adventure game or Sonic game up to date. Jack and Daxter 1. Luigi's Mansion, the first one. Advance Wars, the first one. Pokemon Crystal. What else we got? Onimusha, the first one. Tekken 4, which I think was the first step for Tekken in like as we know it today. The first Fatal Frame. Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Oracle of Seasons and Time. Excuse me. So there's some like there's some good shit in here. Devil May Cry 1 was somewhere up here. Yeah, Devil May Cry 1.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
these
right.
are some like top tier like PS2 era, GameCube era games. Like there was some hot shit in 2001. If we go to 2011, I think 2011 was very strong too. Dark Souls, Skyrim, Batman Arkham City, Uncharted 3, Dead Space 2, which is solid. What else? Alice Madness Returns. That was a great game.
Oh yeah.
What else? What else? What else? Dragon Age 2, Infamous 2, Captain America Super Soldier, solid game. Ultimate
was a
Marvel
solid
vs.
game.
Capcom 3, right?
Yeah.
The Vita came out. The Vita, I think, was pretty revolutionary system, still holds up today. Uncharted Golden Abyss was a great game for that particular console. Skyward Sword, for Wii. So 2011, I think, was very strong. Like there's some good shit here, and there's other stuff. Deus Ex: Human Revolution, which is a very good game. Portal 2. That's like people are still playing Portal 2 to this day. So 2011, very strong, right? And then we go to 2021, and I think there's a considerable dip. Resident Evil Village, Deathloop, Metroid Dread, which is solid, Halo Infinite, which could have been a lot better, Ratchet and Clank, Monster Hunter Rise, which I would say that's one of the weaker Monster Hunter entries in its overall history. Far Cry 6, could have been a lot better. Returnal, solid game. Pokemon Brilliant Diamond remake from a fucking 2004 game. Outriders, which is a total disappointment.
Yeah.
Kenna, Bridge of Spirits, solid, solid platform, but an indie game. Hold on, I'll find something.
Lost Judgment is good if you like the Yakuza games.
Where
Lost Judgment under Chivalry 2.
Oh, okay, Lost Judgment if you're into Yakuza games, which I am not.
If you're a JRPG fan, Shin Megami
Tensei 5. Okay, there's stuff. Do Pokemon Snap, Final Fantasy Endwalker, right? Like if you're into MMOs.
Oh well, yeah. That was so. There's a side tangent. That Endwalker was so popular that they had to stop selling the expansion because the servers were so overloaded with people playing. So that one was kind of it was a banger for sure.
Yeah, it was a big,
Yeah, but is it a banger because it's a solid video game, or is it a banger because it's Final Fantasy?
Could be a little bit of both.
Yeah, I would say.
14 is like one of the most popular MMOs currently, competing with WoW, and I believe the fuck is that other one? The Elder Scrolls MMO. Those are like the big three currently, and Endwalker was highly anticipated. So yeah, it's a combination of both. Definitely Final Fantasy, but this is like the fourth expansion. So like if you're playing Endwalker, you're invested into the 14 brand.
Story.
So
okay, that's what I wanted to know. Because a lot of the stuff, some of the stuff I saw on that. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
It's just that some of the stuff that was on this list is like, well, I mean, it's really the title that's selling the game. It's not really like the actual game, right? Like the three of us, well, everybody in our little entourage, we care about the gameplay most. So we could really care less about the title of the game or the genre of the game. It's the gameplay that will pull us into it. So like say, for instance, Outriders gameplay isn't good. it isn't good. So the game itself for us, it didn't matter how pretty it looked. It didn't matter how immersive the world could be. It didn't matter the superpowers that you had. The gameplay, I mean, for BlankaKong, especially, the game was literally unplayable. Literally unplayable. So it's like a lot of these games, I feel like it's what's carrying them is their title, not necessarily even their gameplay. Which goes back to the whole AAA games not being as good as they used to be or as strong as they used to be in terms of whether it's creativity or depth or just, it's like, drinking a spoon of water and not a full glass.
Well, yeah, I can definitely see that because on this list is Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. Now, none of us here particularly care, unless we're a closeted FNAF fan. I don't know, whatever, do your thing. But FNAF, Five Nights at Freddy's, is really popular. It's
Hmm.
spawned. It's one of the few games credited with the whole genre of YouTuber Let's Plays. That's the terminology. FNAF kind of started Let's Plays as a genre in the YouTube space. So, but just like Wolf said, people bought Security Breach because, oh, it's FNAF. It's the latest FNAF game. It's gonna be great. That game, from what I've saw and what I've read, was one, a buggy mess. I'm talking about game-breaking bugs, crashing, literally unplayable, to just being an overall mediocre game. But to Wolf's point, it still was on the board because it was a FNAF game. And
Yeah, it's like the Call of Duty games.
Vanguard's there. I don't know how Vanguard did, but I didn't set the world on fire to my knowledge. So
Yeah. So, and then here we have It Takes Two, which I don't think is a bad game, but that one game of the year for some reason. Um, I don't know. I think this roster, while they have some gems for sure, like Metroid, I would consider that a gem. Returnal, I would consider that a gem. Even It Takes Two, sure, like a gem of an indie game. Okay, Kenna, I think, is a fantastic indie game, but most of these are indie games, like or Nintendo game, which is always going to be quality, more often than not. Everything else is just kind of like filler, in my opinion. Or Final Fantasy Endwalker. I think that was a big expansion. And to answer your question, I don't play Final Fantasy, but I do read about it and stuff, and I know other people who play it besides Gunner, and I mean they speak very highly of this game, and the content is there and the track record is there. So I could see why it blew up the internet last year.
oh shit, Tales of Arise is there. That was a very meh Tales game too.
Well,
Those games are not good anymore.
well, were they better back then?
Way better.
Okay, so
Way
that only supports my claim. So I'll just pull up this chart, and this is just number of games released on Steam worldwide from 2004 to 2022, and yeah, this is like hard. This is difficult like chart to use as a measure for everything that we're talking about, because we're talking about the whole industry, but it's a decent sample size. So look at the difference in like how many games actually come out after 2013, right? In 2004 you had 54 games, 2008 you had 216 games, 2013 you had 583 games, 2014 you had 1500 games, then you go up to like 2017 6,000 games, then 2018 8,000 games, 2019 7,000 games, 2020 9,500 games, 2021 10,000 different games. So it's not like a matter of there's less games. There are more games being pushed out because there
Oh,
are more people developing them, but there are less high quality games, I would say.
so to say, needless to say, it looks like we're getting a little saturated.
A little, yeah.
yeah.
And I think this chart, and again, this is like a small sample size, right? Like it's just Steam games from 2004 to 2022. But I think this can definitely like showcase what could be accurate to the whole industry. Like there's just a lot of crap out there, and there's not a lot of like diamond gem games that are like, yeah, this is worth it.
Yeah.
This is worth your $60, and especially from third party, or not third party, but from AAA developers.
Well,
Yeah,
um, I, I keep going back to Wolf's point about gameplay versus. Well, he used name brand, but I think it also applies to gameplay versus um
Graphics.
yeah, graphics. I think graphics have taken a huge um they've been placed front and center into a lot of video game developers and the players, their
I would say that's
their
second to
minds.
narrative. That's second to
Yeah.
narrative. Narrative
So
and storytelling has become the forefront of what games should be now, and
right,
graphics is in hand in hand with that.
right. But what's kind of what's kind of a side effect of that is that these games have huge budgets. Like you got these games costing upwards
Movie
of like,
level.
yeah, they're like rivaling MCU movies
Hmm.
in their budgets. And what that means is that if I'm a CEO at Square Enix and you're telling me Final Fantasy 16 is going to cost 60, let's just throw a crazy number, 60 billion to make from start to finish, this game's costing 60 billion. I don't want to take any chances with that game. You need to bring me a formula that's going to sell so I can make double, triple my investment. So because these games have such huge budgets between development, graphics, the modelers, the voice actors, they want big
Mm.
money. Um, everybody in between. These game companies, they don't want to take chances anymore. Not like when we were growing up in the video game scene and it was a fucking sprite. It's like, bro, we can have a wild um let's kill the main character off in the middle of our game. It's just Sprite. It's no big deal. We'll take a chance. The game doesn't do well. All right, maybe we'll reverse our decision in the sequel if we decide to make a sequel. And because game budgets were so low, you could take a chance, and if it played out well, cool. If it didn't, okay, we can kind of reboot it, or we can rectify what the fans didn't like in a sequel, because we didn't take a huge hit if this game didn't do particularly, bad. But now, if these games fail, it's grounds to shelve a whole franchise. Like if 16 for some crazy reason does horribly bad, you'll probably see 14 just carry the Final Fantasy name for years to come. So I think budgets and these huge like inflated expectations from the gaming community, a large portion of the gaming community, just means that these games, they can't afford to take a risk anymore. Because if you take a risk nowadays, you might bankrupt the whole studio.
I definitely agree with that. I feel like the gaming community, because it's grown so much since we were younger, um, it, it like everybody wants to be, like a lot of people now consider themselves gamers, even if they just play mobile
Yep.
games. Um, there's the expectation is, well, it has to look pretty or it has to pull me in through story. And for that, gameplay does suffer. That's why, we're looking at all these titles. We were looking at all these titles, and at least for us, these games was just like, oh my gosh, it's a drag to play, or it was a great regret to play because it was just like, well, okay, yeah. So I can clearly see what's happening on my screen because it is graphically strong, which I appreciate. But if I can't control my character or avatar the way that I want to, or the way that I need to play the game, um, then it's not really a video game for me. Um, and one of my examples is like, say, like um the Pokemon franchise, right? Like I watched a brief history on the Pokemon franchise and how it started, and I can honestly say that that game started with tons of passion behind it, a lot of passion behind it. And as it, of course, it got bigger, it got bigger, it got bigger, it got bigger, more people, like it blew up. So now there's this expectation for Pokemon games, but what I what I see in my, or at least in my personal opinion, I feel like the gameplay is suffering for it. Because people want more Pokemon. They want, like, okay, this is an exaggerated story, but they want all 900 Pokemon in one game. Maybe that can happen, but if you're going to put all 900 Pokemon in one game and make the game pretty and graphically strong as the Switch possibly could make it, if those are your standards, then you're going to have to expect that when the Pokemon attack, it's going to do a jumping animation for flamethrower. It's not exactly going to shoot fire. Um, and I think that if I'm okay with a Pokemon game that tones down the Pokemons by a lot to then give me better, I guess, attack animations and deeper gameplay. Um, I think they're going in a good direction. At least it seems like they're going in a good direction with Scarlet and Violet. But at the same time, I'm also scarred by Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, and by Sword and Shield, which Sword and Shield wasn't even a complete game, and I'm still bitching about it. I had to spend an additional $40 to get the full game of Sword and Shield. So it's like, like these are things that, as a conscious gamer, comes back to me on. But a lot of people don't see that. They just see Pokemon, and
Mm-hmm.
because they see Pokemon, they're gonna buy it. And because they buy it, Game Freak is like, well, we made the money, so let's just push it out again the same exact way. and it, and then it sucks, And this is also going for the Monster Hunter video games. More and more people are playing Monster Hunter, and because more and more people are playing Monster Hunter, it's taking a toll on the gameplay, right? Like, we appreciated the fact that you had to be strategical to take a potion when you replayed old school Monster Hunter. You couldn't just take a potion. You had to be pretty strategical, right? But then new age Monster Hunter is, well, I can be on my super fast dog, or I can just be running around, and now I can take a potion. It's little things like that that's like, the gameplay is starting to water down because the expectation is no longer the gameplay for a video game. It's really now, well, how accessible it is to people who don't want to think, or how accessible it is to people who just want pretty graphics or a good story. At this point, I've grown so content with just video games being so watered down that if I'm interested in the game, I'll let YouTubers play it and I'll just watch the videos. That's how I
Yeah,
feel.
I mean, like a perfect example with Pokemon. Do they have to take a risk anymore? No. Why should they?
No, they don't have
So
to take that risk anymore.
yeah, they'll add a new coat of paint. They'll add a new Pokemon, a couple new Pokemon, a new mechanic, and then they'll they'll rake in $1 billion, and then it's
Hmm?
like, and then you see a lot of the like I've seen a lot of indie Pokemon esque or monster catching type games, and it's like maybe that's where I guess disenfranchised Pokemon fans have to go to maybe get a new experience because they're not
That's
getting
where
it
I'm
from
going.
Game Freak.
I'm waiting for Power World to come out on
There you
Steam.
go. That and
I
Nexamon, something like that.
I bought Nexamon, so I mean, I to me, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be Pokemon, um, for me to enjoy. If the spirit of the Pokemon games are there, that's enough for me. I don't
Right.
need the brand loyalty per se. Um, and this, I don't want this to become a Pokemon podcast, but like, I think Pokemon's a great example of like, and we could use other games like Call of Duty, for example, or even Final Fantasy. You guys can speak better to Final Fantasy and the quality of Final Fantasy games from 1 through 15. But I could speak to the Pokemon games as I played most of them. You know, it's Pokemon video games have become a vehicle to make money in other industries for the Pokemon Company and for Game Freak. And being older, I understand that. And being someone who works in sales or whatever, I get it. But the fan in me hates it because it's like,
Hmm.
well, that just means that you're going to give us um, the very bare minimum, and I'm just either going to take it or not take it. But I have to accept the fact that it's going to succeed with or without me, and I have to be okay with it.
Hmm.
And that sucks. That's a bitter pill to swallow. And the same could be said about Call of Duty games. Like Call of Duty games, I mean, I remember Black Ops 1, Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 1. Like, this is like peak Call of Duty. And if you talk to Call of Duty guys who have played all the COD games from then till now, a lot of them feel the way we feel about Pokemon. It's like, the games are just not what they used to be. All these features are gone, or now it's become everything's battle royale, everything is fucking this bullshit. I don't get that high quality team deathmatch experience anymore, or whatever it looks like, right? And so maybe those players start going to Counter Strike, or they start looking at other franchises Rainbow Six or Counter Strike, games like that, to get like what they would consider high quality gameplay.
Yeah.
So, and that's another thing that I think contributes to this topic is game design today. What's successful today? I mentioned battle royale games. I understand why
Yeah.
battle royale games are successful. I get it, but it's now that's starting to take over. Now all these companies see that and they go, "Well, shit, we need a battle royale game," and that means that there's money and resources not being put toward what we would consider to be good games, and it's put toward this other fucking battle royale game. And it's like, well, now everything's a battle royale game, and it's like, can we, can I get a decent game here? And so I don't even buy games anymore. Like I buy stuff here and there, but like I'm not excited for anything. The last thing I was excited for was Elden Ring, and I'm not. I mean, I'm not really all that excited for RE4 remake. I'm happy it doesn't look like garbage. But am I excited for it? I could honestly probably live without it. So I can't think of anything that I'm excited for at all.
Yeah, my excitement for video games is not like when, for instance, I was in high school and they showed the teaser trailer for Twilight Princess, and I literally screamed like a fangirl um, to a boy band on stage. Like that excitement is no longer there, and yes, that's because of that. A part of it is because of age and maturity, but another part of it too is because of just the lack of quality. Like right now, the remake of I'm playing the remake of a remix of an original RPG. That doesn't even make sense. So Persona 5 came out 6 or 7 years ago, well, 5, 6, 7 years ago
For the PlayStation 3.
for PlayStation 3, was remade on PlayStation 4 as Persona Royal, and then Persona Royal was ported over to the Switch. That's what I'm playing now.
Same.
Me
And that's
too.
a re
No, that's a lie.
that's a it's an old game. It's an old game,
Yeah, it came out
but
in 2018. Fucking 4 years
right.
ago now.
And it that's what I'm playing now. And I was actually more excited for that than a game that that I had accessibility to, which was Bayonetta 3, um, Scarlet and Violet. Scarlet and Violet, I'm buying it or I'm playing it out of traditional reasons, and that's because my brother is really trying to build his channel, and I feel like I can help him by playing the game. But I I'm not excited for it. Like I don't get I'm not getting that goosebump because it's just like, well, every time I try to get excited, I go back to um Sword and Shield's evilness or lack of gameplay from Sword and Shield or lack of content from Sword and Shield. So and then Brilliant Diamond and Sun and Pearl, while they are the remakes of my favorite Pokemon generation, the games themselves was still a lackluster game, and it did fail in a lot of things that it should have been better at for being a remake. Um, and even Street Fighter, like when I saw Street Fighter 4, yeah, okay, so the characters were kind of like, you know, weird looking with their muscles and their face expressions. But I was excited to see Ryu, Chun-Li, and Ken back at it again after so many years of, Street Fighter being in hiatus and on a new console and with better graphics and with other new characters being introduced. But now Street Fighter 6 is on its way, and I do watch content for it. I'm still not excited for it. I like seeing Ryu work the way he's been working, the way that everybody is praising him since the beta came out. Normally that would have gotten me excited. I would have been like, yeah, I can't wait to get this Ryu. But then it goes back to, well, balance patches, easy combinations, characters who are blatantly designed to be better than other characters. Like these are just what fighting games have become now. And it's like that whole idea of taking 2 3 hours to practice with your character to then go online or to play with your friends and pull those combinations out, it's gone. And because it's gone, I'm not excited about fighting games anymore. KOF introduced one button combos, Dragon Ball Fighters, one button combos. These are newer age fighting games, or KOF 15, which was one button combos for KOF was introduced in 14. So newer age fighting games. And it's like, well, what kind of bullshit is Street Fighter 6 is gonna bring me if I go ahead and spend my $65 or $70 on that game? What is the, like, am I gonna get Street Fighter? Am I gonna get an actual fighting game? Or am I gonna get a game that's just like built on pretty graphics, apparently an open world mode, and the two-player aspect of it is just there because it's Street Fighter and it has to be
Oh,
there.
that's right. It's a fighting game. Yeah, I guess we have to do that.
Yeah, it's
I
like
think you already know the answer to that question. So
it's like these are the things that is like, yeah, the games back then was because they had limited technology, but they also wanted to wow the audience. I think
Yeah,
that's a drive that's missing. It's lost in translation, wanting to wow your audience. Or maybe
it's.
wowing your audience is pretty graphics.
I mean, yeah. I mean now. I mean, I'm like, to your point. I'm right with you, Wolf. I'm playing Persona 5 Royal, a game that came out. Okay, we'll say Royal came out earlier, but it's based off a game that came out on the PlayStation 3 in the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
I've recently bought a game, Tactics Ogre Reborn. Fucking a game that came out on the Super Famicom in 1995. I'm playing that next after Persona. Front Mission is getting redone for the Switch, a game that came out in 1995 on the fucking PlayStation. I'm in the 90s. I'm permanently stuck in the 90s because I know these games they're worth a damn, quite frankly. I mean, sure, you know, P5 looks nice on the Switch. It's portable. I love it. Great. Persona, great. I'm a fan. Tactics Ogre, I fucking love tactical games. I played it on the PSP. I love it. Front Mission, another, like, these are games that vibe and jibe with me, so they're my like wheelhouse. But also these games are just solid video games. They work well. They're not trying to sell me anything. They're not trying to push anything on me. They're just like, here's a game. It's quality. You're gonna get your money's worth. And me, I always tell people be careful of remakes, but how can I turn down a remake of a game that I know, or a remaster, not a remake, a remaster of a game I know is good? So I talk shit about Square Enix and their subpar games, but I gave them $50 for Tactics Ogre because I know I'm gonna get 100+ hours out of that game. 16, I can't even play it because I don't have the newest shiny box. So it's and I and to go to your point about Street Fighter and just having no desire, I have no desire to get a PlayStation 5 to play 16. It extends, for me, and I know a lot of us, it extends beyond the game, the console. I'm just not, I don't have a drive to get a PlayStation 5, to get an Xbox. I work, I have the money, I could get one right now, but I don't want it. I'm playing on my little Switch. Everybody makes fun of it. Steam Deck is better. But it's just like, this is where I want to play. This has got the games, and I have the lineup for the remainder of the year. I got my video game lineup. I don't need to worry about 16 and, you know, fancy game number one. I don't need to worry about that because I have, albeit remasters, but remasters of solid games from yesteryear. And that goes back to our whole point. It's just like, bro, it's like once you go past a certain time period, is it worth it?
It's true.
listen, it's like I try very hard to try to look at things from multiple perspectives, and I have to ask the question, and I think I already know the answer to it because it might be just a combination of everything. But did we outgrow the hobby? Is that what's going on here? Is the quality has the quality actually dropped off? Have our taste stagnated and have not evolved? Like have that has to be asked as well.
It I feel like it's a combination of everything. It's like how I view music. I thought about it earlier when I was driving home, and it's an hour to drive home from work to my house. So it's a lot of music I'm listening to. If a song is 3 minutes on average. Um, and I'm saying to myself, like, how all the music I'm listening to is like old music, like from old bands or old rappers, or it doesn't matter what genre it is. They're all from like early 2000s, mid 90s. Hell, I've even gone back to the 80s in some of the music that I have, right? Like I do have ACDC um music on my iPod. I on my iPhone. I have music from the 80s. Okay? Like,
I do too.
right. I have nothing from 2018 and up. Not even nothing. Nothing. I don't have anything that's current for 2022. Nothing from last year, nothing from the year before that. They're all early 2000 and down. And I'm saying to myself, like, maybe I should try to listen to like what's new, like what like and then I go into genres and I try to listen to the music and I'm like, no, this is crap. I can't do this, right? Like I can't. And it's the same thing when it comes to my video games, because like I was watching my oldest, I wasn't watching him, but I heard him complaining in his room. So I went in there, I'm like, yo, bro, you're loud. And he was like, sorry, but he's playing the new Call of Duty, the latest one that just came out. And he's showing me everything that is frustrating him about the video game. And while I don't accept the yelling and the shouting, from gaming rage, I do understand his frustration with it, because I loved playing Call of Duty where you picked your perks, you put them on your character, and you go with it. Some Call of Duty you had to unlock your perks. Some Call of Duty you had to upgrade your perks. This Call of Duty, your perks come out of a loot box. You get two that you start with. The third one is a loot box, and then the fourth one is based on how many kills you get. I believe that's how he explained it to me. I'm like, what? What is that? Like, this shit is just dumb. You know what? If Black Ops was still up and live, I would play Black Ops 1. Which is, in my personal opinion, the best Call of Duty that I've ever played.
I agree. The Black Ops
Um,
is the best.
and it's the same way. Like, again, with the music, it's the same way I feel about my video games. It's just like I'm not interested in this. Like, why am I playing this game when I can go ahead? Why am I playing Tales of Arise when I can go play Tales of Symphonia?
Yeah, that's coming out soon too. It's like on the fucking GameCube, man. I'm going back and playing a GameCube game on my Switch. It's like I'll never progress at this point. I'll never advance.
So I think Kong asked the right questions. It's a little bit of our stubbornness, of not wanting to, I guess, be, the younger ones would call it open-minded, um, and not trying new things. But we do try. It's just we've been burned by the new things, so
Yes.
like we're not willing to open up again because we've been burned enough times. We learn from our mistakes.
I've been hurt too much before.
Like, I will
We
not be
sound like
playing
jaded
Outriders 2.
lovers.
Don't hurt me no more.
I will never play Outriders 2 because I've had my experience with Outriders 1. So even if 2 comes out and it's massively better than what 1 ever was, I can't go back to it because I understand, like, this game, the first title it was trash, and I'm not going to continue going with it. Much like if I listen to an artist that come out this year and the first song I listen from them is trash, I'm not going to want to listen to another song from them. I'm really not, because I'm wired that way. But
I mean, they say
with
first impressions are everything, so
yeah, it's true. It is true. And it's it's everything. We're older now. Things are getting in the way. Certain responsibilities are getting in the way. So paying attention to it is not as free as it used to be. We're stubborn. We are a very stubborn group of guys who we like what we like. You're not changing it. We refuse. Sometimes we can be, very stuck in our ways. And then at the same time, it's also everybody else around us is like willing to accept crap because it's new and not really trying to dive in to the layers and see what's really wrong with the product that they're spending their money on. I think it's everything.
Yeah, I'd have to say so. Yeah, my hobbies have definitely shifted as I've gotten older. I don't hate video games. It's just, like Wolf said, I have less time to play them. They're getting more expensive. The fucking consoles are getting more expensive. So now it's just like you have to be worth my time for me to even consider you. And I'm a high value gamer. You gotta be a high value game. You know what I'm saying? But and some of these aren't. So it's like I go to old standbys. It's like hello RPG from 20 years ago, hello strategy game from 30 years ago. So it's just like I know these will bring me happiness. I've played them. I've played some of them dozens of times, but I know I'll enjoy you. So I'm gonna go back to that.
And not only
And
are consoles getting more expensive, they're also getting ridiculously hard to find.
yeah, right.
It, like most people didn't like a lot of people in my circle didn't get a PS5 till 2 years after the PS5 came out. The OLED was pretty hard to find. People were, and it's just like no, like you not only are you expensive, but you're hard to find. I got to go above and beyond just to get the console. I can boot up my Super Nintendo, and I'm very happy with Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo, Super Mario Kart. I'd
Yeah.
be very happy with that. It is what it is.
So yeah, I think Wolf got it right. It's a combination of all three, and it feels sad. It feels kind of hurts, but I'm not gonna spend money on something that's just not enjoyable anymore. Not even gonna pretend.
Yeah, I hear you. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I usually mute myself when I have to clear my throat, but I wasn't quick enough. Yeah, I definitely think there's a combination of everything. I don't know, my personal opinion, me leaning into my bias. I don't know, man. I feel like, and I hate saying I feel like, but I do, because it is an opinion. 2000 to 2000 like 12 is like peak modern game, or I would say modern game, but like peak, like that's the best it's gotten as far as like modern games concerned. Like when that time was considered modern, it felt like wow, this is like next level shit. Like from PS1
Mhm.
to PS2 felt next level. From PS2 to PS3 era, and I include Xbox and GameCube and Wii into that mix. I'm just generation 6 to 7. That felt next level, right? From Super
Mhm.
Nintendo to N64, or from Sega Genesis to like Dreamcast, like that felt next level.
Mhm.
Once we entered the PS4, Xbox One space, it was like, okay, it's kind of the same. All right, let's see what happens. And then we're now in the PS5 era, and it's like it still feels like the PS4 era. Like it just feels the same. Like it feels like time hasn't even passed me. And it's
Bro,
like, is it me? Is it the
no.
world? Is it a little bit of both? Like, and
I
let's
I
try to look at it from
nah.
both sides.
I mean, cue the Zoomers coming in and be like, "Shut up, old man." But it's
In
just
their
like,
fucking skate sneakers or whatever the fuck they're called.
but no, I don't. I just think it's media in general. I mean, Wolf talked about music. I'm the same way. I don't really fuck with shit that's like 2020, 2020 and up. It's
Mhm.
90s, early 2000s, and the 80s. So I
Mhm.
don't think it's. I mean, this is a hot topic about video games, but I just think it's kind of entertainment, media, creativity in general maybe it's a Western thing. I don't know, but it's just we've hit this real stagnant point where it's
Take it
I don't
another
want.
level.
Yeah. All right, go ahead.
Next level. Or when we were kids, you had movies like Alien, then you had Die Hard, then you had um, Gladiator. You had all these different movies that could fall all under the action genre, but they were all very different, right? Now we have Black Adam. Now we have Superman. Now we have Batman. Now we have Spider-Man. Now we have um, Miss Marvel. We have all these. They're all superhero movies now. That's all that ever comes out. Superhero movies or movies that fixes what certain cultures thinks was wrong for older movies.
Yeah,
So
like Lion King remakes, Snow White remakes,
yeah,
fucking Little
yeah,
Mermaids. Like, why do we
trying to
we
be
need all
politically
this
correct
shit?
movies, right? And the so it goes back it's just like nowadays it's just more like, hey, let's push out nice looking content as quickly as we can. Even though it does cost a lot of money, but we as consumers, we eat it up. And it's like there's still a selective few of people who want movies, like not some big name actor in tights with special powers, but like movies, like a actual movie that has story, that has depth, that has quality to it, not just something taken from a drawing on a piece of paper. And yes, I know saying a drawing on a piece of paper really does tone down comic books a lot. Not that I'm trying to take away credit from comic books, but at the same time, in a space of 3 weeks, two superhero movies came out. If I'm not wrong, if yeah, two superheroes, Black Adam, and then tomorrow will be Black Panther.
Honda. Yeah, yeah.
Oh
Right,
yeah, okay.
right.
As you could tell,
And
like
it's just
I am super excited.
I can tell you've been keeping up.
right. And then Marvel Studios put out, they have what 15 more superhero movies that they want to do for the next 4 years. That's a
Yeah,
lot of movies in 4 years, and they're
like
all superhero movies.
we're gonna hit our 40s and fucking Spider-Man still swinging around. It's like cool, but
It'll
is
just
there
be a
anything
new Spider-Man.
else? It's like,
And it's like like even those quality movies, like Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, Bruce Willis movies, all those older movies. Even it doesn't even have to be an action movie. It could have been, whether it was a drama or a romance movie, a thriller. Even horror movies aren't the same as they were back then. It's just all watered down. I watched a horror movie. At least Netflix thought it was a horror movie. It was just dumb to me. But of like two people, an African couple who escaped from um on a boat and whatever.
Mhm.
And I guess the guy let a little girl drown, and her spirit came
oh,
back
I
to
know the
haunt
movie you're
them.
talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched it. Right, it had it had the new age scare tactics to make you afraid of the movie, and it was just like, this movie's dumb. Not that the culture that they was representing is dumb. It's just the premise was kind of like they set up the whole movie. Oh, you are now refugees of another country. You can't move from where you live. You can't have visitors. You can't talk about what you're experiencing. Well, you can't clean up your area. You can't leave your area. Like they put on all these stupid stipulations on the couple for them to stay in that house. I'm thinking, okay, well, this haunting thing that's happening is because these people is probably doing some type of experiment, or that's how they set up refugees to get rid of them instead of actually accepting them in the country. And no, it turned out because he let a little girl drown, and her evil spirit followed him. So it's like you had one aspect of the whole movie set up with all these dumb stipulations to keep them in the house, so that their culture can come back and haunt them. I was just like, no, this is dumb. It's like, and my wife is like, oh my gosh, this is scary. And I was like, no, oh my gosh, this is dumb. That's the scariest part about it. I'm not getting back my 2 hours of life.
So
That's the scariest part.
I think you just mentioning that your wife was buying into it speaks to why we're even having this conversation. The normie crowd and just casuals and like younger people who don't know any better buy into it, and it justifies the quality of the content, and this becomes the new standard. And we go, and then the three of us, our group, or guys like us, or people like us, not just guys, is, you know, obviously women in our age bracket feel, I'm sure, the same way about media.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
we sound like a bunch of fucking boomers. Like back in my day, you know, what music meant something. You know, there was, you know, and it's like, God damn it, like
Maybe, but it.
I could remember a time where I didn't think I'd be in this seat, but fuck, here I am.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't. Again, you might be right. It could be just a generation thing, but I really feel we've hit a wall, like a solid wall of just
I think so
nothing
too. I think so
happening.
too. But I also acknowledge that it could be me. It could just be me, but I can't exactly make it out because it's hard. Like I can't unsee, like I can't look at new age media, that be in video games or movies or music or anime or whatever, with a new pair of eyes. Like it's hard. Like it's impossible. Like I can't not have the context of my life experience. So it's like like I try to remove it to try and like understand why other people might like some certain things, but it is very difficult for me, at least,
Well,
to do
it's
that.
also your partial educational background. Like, because we're interested in this, not only are we just not interested, but we also educated on the 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 the, the specifics behind the quality of content we're looking for.
Sure.
Like you mentioned anime, right? I try to watch the newer animes that come out, especially the action ones. And there's only but a few that'll do a little bit more than I expect. But then me, trained in animation, I look at it and it's like, this is just, it's worse than the old animation, than the older animes, right? Like original Dragon Ball Z was hand drawn, and yet Dragon Ball Z to me is still better content than Dragon Ball Super overall. And Dragon Ball Z was constant loop in fighting. It's really just like the same punches and kicks
Hmm.
that's going on, and it's just being
A
looped and looped
lot of
and looped and
recycled
looped.
animation, yeah.
Right, it's a
Yeah.
lot of recycled animation, but the spirit is like, I won't say the spirit, but like, yeah, I'm gonna say the
There was
spirit. Like
soul.
you
There was
could,
soul.
yeah, there you go. You
Hmm.
could feel that.
Yeah.
You don't get that anymore. And I think the last major animation that really did it was after Shippuden, after the Naruto series. Every anime after that was just like, wow, this is subpar in terms of animation wise, story wise. I've watched animations where they don't even really animate the characters or fully color the background. It's like they'll draw the background lines a little bit, and then it'll be slightly colored in the back, but really most of the background is white. And it's like, you're even getting lazy on coloring. It's just so different. It's just so different. And because I'm trained in animation, I can't just look at a cartoon, anime or whatever, and just be like, yeah, this is cool. No, I'm
Can't turn
constantly
that part off.
dissecting it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to turn
Yeah,
that part off in your brain. Yeah.
it's hard, right? And you understand a lot of, at least you understand video games. You understand the build up, you partially educated yourself in it. So when you look at a game, like when you try to play Outriders, your frustration was more than I've ever known you to express towards a video game, in the
I wasn't happy.
20 plus years that I've known you. You know, so it's just like
Yeah, has it been
it
20?
yeah, it's 20 years
Almost,
since I've known
almost.
you.
Yeah,
No, we're
fuck.
34. Yeah, it's 20 years, bro. We
Oh
met in
my
ninth grade.
god. Yeah, you're right. Fucking hell. All right, go ahead.
um, yeah, so it's like you once you're educated in that, you can't just turn your brain off. And Esoteric actually made a point to that in another podcast where it's like if you understand programming, a computer program on your desktop or your laptop or whatever, it's going to frustrate you differently than someone who doesn't understand computer programming at all.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know, so and I think that's also an issue that we have. It's definitely an issue we have.
You reminded me of like back in high school, when we were watching Naruto for the first time. And this is before Naruto was even in the States and it was dubbed. It was only subbed,
Mm-hmm.
it was only available in Japan. We had to go get the DVDs or whatever from Chinatown to even watch them. There was no website that you can go to. That shit wasn't real. That shit didn't exist. We had to wait and we had to find it, and it was expensive. It was not cheap. And I remember like how hype we got when the with the animation sequence of like when Naruto fought Sasuke on the fucking the riverbank or whatever it was,
Yeah.
and he hit him with
Mm-hmm.
that fucking combo, bop 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 bop, and you
Yeah.
saw Sasuke's facial expressions like, oh my god, like it was such
Mm-hmm.
god tier fucking animation, and it's like I don't think you really like. I think newer animes try to emulate that, but it's so artificial. You could tell it's like there was no soul behind the
Yeah.
actual animation. It was just like you could tell they probably stole it from some other, animation or some other storyboard or whatever. But you just reminded me of that, and I was like, I don't get that. We don't really get that anymore. Like it just doesn't happen.
Nope.
And it sucks because it's like fuck, man. It becomes this chase. Like I'm chasing for like that feeling of like being shocked and being like wowed by something. It just doesn't happen anymore. And that makes me sad. It makes me really sad.
I mean, fortunately, hold on to your old, Naruto DVDs, your Bleach, your old school Gundam. Try to get that, and hey, somebody's gonna come up to you and stop living in the past. It's like, well, fuck you. I'm happy. That's what I'm doing. It's just like, bro.
Some would argue that's not healthy.
I mean, maybe, but what's the alternative? Just cookie cutter, consume, get excited for next product, consume product, get excited for new product. It's like, do I want to be in that, or do I want to have the nostalgia goggles on? I don't know. Lesser of two evils, maybe.
I don't know.
But
It's hard to say, man. Like it's like being aware enough that you could be the problem, but not having the ability to definitively say yes. It is a me problem. That's where I'm at. Not to sound like a fence sitter, but that's kind of I'm like in the middle somewhere. It's like
I mean, if we bring it back to video games, I've seen the new crop of video games, and I've seen that there have been way more flops in recent years than there have been successes, or it's been a lot of, hey, we broke even. That's a
Oh yeah.
success.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So maybe, but I look at what's coming out now, and it's just like, you guys are not setting the world on fire over there.
You know what?
So
You're right, because the recording of this podcast, God of War Ragnarok, just came out. I don't know when this podcast is going to go live or in our thing, but Ragnarok, God of War Ragnarok is like the hype shit right now.
tell me about it.
And every ad that I see for this is there's no gameplay. It's all narrative driven.
I got you.
Go ahead.
My father is currently playing God of War, and when I come by and I see what he's playing, I'm like, is that just God of War? God of War? He's like, no, that's the new one. It's like, it is? No. And he's like, yeah, you get a grappling hook now. I'm like, That's
What?
it. It literally
Sure.
looks like the same game. It's the same game. I
Damn, I
mean,
spit
and
all over my desk.
Sorry,
it's like
but
I
I
get
didn't
it, right?
expect Kratos to have a grappling hook. What the fuck?
I
That
mean,
was random, but go ahead.
it looked like a weird. I mean, I'm gonna call it a grappling hook because he was on the ground. He twirled something and it pulled him up on a ledge. I'm gonna call that a grappling hook. It
That's
might
what
be
grappling hooks do.
it might be Witch of the Winter Goddess's hair, but it's a grappling hook.
um, but I don't know, man. And I see the ads, and I was like, yeah, it looks cool. And the voice actors, Kratos, boy, don't do that. So I could see the appeal. It's like, there's a lot there, but it's like, okay, let's remove all of that. What do we really have here, right? Is this a video game or is this a movie? And it leans more to being a movie. And so it's like, okay, I guess that's cool, but when I look at video game ads and researching a video game, I'm looking for that gameplay. I'm looking for that. Yes, I could see myself enjoying this gameplay, and I don't get that. And it's like, fuck, makes me think like they have moved on from me as a target consumer. Like
Oh,
they don't
yeah.
care at all about me because it's like I am too a person or gamers like us would be um too cost efficient to their bottom line to produce content that's like we would consider worthy and it's like damn so yeah I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. Like I don't want to be stuck in the past, but the past is so sick. It's like the past was so much cooler, right? And this is the last thing I'll say. I was talking to somebody random. He had mentioned Yu-Gi-Oh, and I was, oh yeah, I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh back in the day. And then we got into this 45-minute conversation about how great Yu-Gi-Oh was from like 2003 to like 2006, 2007. Like that was like primo Yu-Gi-Oh back then, like the chaos format and fucking it was fucking amazing. And I remember thinking back then as a teenager, like Yu-Gi-Oh was everything to me. It was just like I can't imagine my life without this game. This game is so good. And now looking back, I'm like, wow, it's really sad to have moved past from that and to know that I can never go back
Go
there.
back.
And it's like, damn, and it was such a magical time. As nerdy and as pathetic as it may sound to some, that's fine. But I'm just being honest here and being open about that time of my childhood. And Wolf was there for it, and I'm sure he might feel the same. I don't know.
Yep.
But fuck, man, those were some great times, and the game was so great back then. And I don't doubt that it's good now. I'm sure it's fine, but it's just so different, and it's like it lacks soul. It feels so like anti-consumer. They just want to squeeze you out for every dollar you're worth, and it's like, well, fuck you, man. Like I don't even want to be a part of this anymore.
Yeah, I think that's a good moral. That's a good TLDR to this whole podcast. Please watch and subscribe. But a whole TLDR is a lot of this new stuff, games, movies, television, music, entertainment, just lacks soul. It just doesn't have that thing anymore that was more than just the pretty graphics or the great cinematography or the crazy beats. It was like, this makes me feel something. Now it's just product. It's like it's junk food. It's literally just McDonald's for the video game, movie, and whatever. The entertainment genre doesn't have that anymore. It's a really good.
Well, fuck. Now that you say all that, I'm having like a revelation on the like in the middle of the podcast. Like we started the podcast saying it's a little bit of both. Like, is the creativity dead? Yes, yes, yes and no. At least that's what I said. And it's like now I'm like, well, fuck. With all this being said, like, then it's no, right? Like it's dead. Like creativity is dead.
You gotta. I'll still root for the little guy, the indie dev
Fair
making a
enough.
game using Unreal Engine because he might not have the budget that Square Enix has, but he's gonna put that heart, he, she, whatever, is gonna put that heart and soul into their video game, and I can see that. Like I'll see that, and I'm like, you know what? How much is your game? $10? Here you go. I'll give you $10 for that. How much is your game? 70? Nah, you go fuck yourself for that. I got you with the $10. So I'll still stick by it. If you're looking at big boys, yeah, it's
Okay.
super fucking hit or miss. More times miss than hit. But I mean, you just gotta dig.
Mhm.
You gotta dig and you gotta search and you gotta find those gems and you gotta support those gems. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna buy you digitally. I'm gonna buy you a physical copy if you come out. I'm gonna support you because I want to see more of what you're bringing. It's just
Until they become big name and then they get watered
yeah,
down.
that's entirely possible. You know,
Yeah.
money changes a man, as they say. So, but at least in the beginning, I
Mhm.
got you, little guy. If you become too big for your britches, well, that's another story. But
Every man has its price. It's true. Okay, well, with that being said, guys, thank you for a really, really interesting conversation. I think this was a great topic, Gunner, that you had brought forward.
yeah, then
So, for those listening, if you've enjoyed the conversation, I appreciate your viewership, first of all. Leave a like or dislike, comment down below. Let us know what you think. Subscribe. We do content every week, so we publish a podcast every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern. We also try to do other content as well, 2-minute reviews on different games or different products. We also stream, so Mr. Esoteric, who isn't present for this particular episode, streams on the main channel on Logical Gamers TV on Twitch. He streams every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern. So check him out. He plays an assortment of different things. So go follow him so that you can see when he goes live. I also have a channel. I haven't streamed as often, just finding the time, quite frankly. But you can follow me as well, BlankaKong on Twitch. We also have social media, so we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We also run a Discord. It's a small community over there, so we'd love to have you. All those links will be provided for you in the description down below, and we'll hope to see you in the next one. Later.
next time.